Indicted Fiction, the most untrue crime podcast out there. Everything you're about to hear is fictional, but the feelings you may experience are 100% real. The Case of Adam's Murder, Episode 5, Confirmation, recorded October 25th. "Here, Babs," Adam said, handing me the pipe. I took it carefully as it crackled. The image of the melting crystal was all my eyes could focus on. As I put it to my lips, the smoke hit my nostrils, burning all the way to my throat. I took a big hit, filling my lungs with fire. When I looked up to hand Adam the pipe, he was dead. He wore the suit we buried him in. It had been torn open at some point, exposing a mess of dripping flesh. Sitting on his knees, like a child on Christmas morning, Adam's intestines lay sprawled out before him. He panted, a bloody heartbeat from within his chest cavity, defying the way his face and skin screamed death. His glazed eyes met mine as his mummified hands reached for the pipe. Adam's body appeared as an amalgamation of flesh, living tissue, and skin aged for centuries. Skin flaked away and landed in my hands in return for the pipe. He put it to his wrinkled, dry lips, inhaling as smoke drifted from his punctured lungs. Adam laughed, that same smoker's laugh he had when he was alive, and his eyes rolled back in his head, exposing two eyes, black as night. Something pushed me, seeming to thrust against my shoulders like two giant hands. I toppled over backwards, falling through darkness until I landed in a plush, leather recliner. Chantelle sat in front of me and spoke softly. "Your brother was a good man." Tears twinkled on her cheeks. We briefly spoke, mainly about Adam, before a thunderous crashing took my attention. Chantelle paid no attention to it as giant legs entered her apartment. I tried to look up but could only see up to the legs' leopard print thongs. Above them, nothing but a void of darkness took place. She sobbed more, crying into her hands as the legs danced about us, gyrating their hips around. I couldn't focus on her words. My heart beat fast in my chest, the legs seeming to dance with its booming rhythm. I got up to run away, but the floor gave way underneath my weight. I found myself falling again, falling through nothing but black. I could feel the wind chill on my skin as I sped through this chasm. Deeper and deeper I fell. I was in Joel and Chuck's living room. I had no recollection of landing, but there I was. Mountains of pills surrounded me, each a different, pretty color. Joel beckoned me from the couch, waving me toward him with a wad of cash. I sat on the couch, and that's when Chuck appeared. He sprang up from behind a mountain of pills and grabbed me from behind. With cold fingers, he forced my mouth open and held me before Joel. Joel carefully took a pill from the pile on his coffee table and gently laid it on my tongue as I struggled against Chuck. The pill dissolved, fizzing in my mouth and leaving my tongue to feel numb and tingly. Joel plucked another pill from the pile and set it on my tongue. Before it could dissolve, he picked and placed another, then another, and another. Soon my mouth was full of pills, so many that my jaw cracked as it stretched over this horde. They melted on my tongue, the taste and smell so overwhelmingly sweet. Joel tried to set another pill into my mouth, but it couldn't find space and tumbled to the floor. He grunted, motioning something to Chuck. I felt Chuck's grip tighten, his fingernails digging into the soft flesh of the roof of my mouth and below my tongue. He ripped outward, tearing my lower jaw from its hinge. Joel took handfuls and handfuls of pills, shoving them down my now exposed esophagus. I choked, coughing pills and a spray of blood into Joel's face, but it only hardened the look in his eyes. He gritted his teeth, shoving his hand directly into my stomach and letting go. The pills filled my stomach quickly. I could hear myself crying, the pain in my jaw immense, but as the pain in my stomach grew, I knew what was next. I heard the ripping before I felt it, and as Joel shoveled in another handful of pills into my gullet, my stomach burst. Fiery pain shot through my body from my navel outwards. I looked down in time to see what I had birthed. There sat a bloodied Mr. Chubbs, as crushed and putrid as he probably is now under Adam's coffin. His head lifted and swiveled to look at me, and out of his broken snout he whispered, "They're waiting for you." Silence. All of the pain subsided, and I hung in warm nothingness until a light shone before me. It approached me, crunching through leaves and sticks on its way. I saw myself wielding a flashlight in a panicked state. Adam, this isn't funny anymore." I had been there before, looking for Adam as he hid in the forest. The river rushed by to my left. I swooped the flashlight that way, thinking I heard someone in the water. "Adam, did you fall in?" From where I stood watching myself, I could see young Adam hiding in a bush not too far away. My younger self inched closer to the river, getting dangerously close to the steep bank. From my memory, I knew Adam came to my side, grabbing my shirt just as I slipped and saving me from falling in. I watched, breathless and unable to move as I fell into the murky depths. Adam laughed from his place behind the bush, and I noticed someone sitting beside him. He pulled out a lighter, striking it so the small flame illuminated his friend. Sola sat beside him, just as pale and dead as the day I had found her. My screams were out in the distance, slowly fading beneath the sound of rushing water. Sola stood, approaching where I assumed I could not be seen. Like a camera on a tripod, I could see but could not move. She got close, her nose pressing into what I assumed was my eye. She breathed heavily, the smell of skunk filling my nose and mouth. What I mistook for anger in her eyes was merely confusion as she began to cry. She mumbled things until she finally yelled, "Help us!" She backed away from me, her body dismembering and disintegrating into the soil, and like every zombie movie out there, hands rose from the dirt, followed by bodies in various stages of decomposition. I recognized some from missing persons posters I had seen around town. Others were without heads, or their faces were mutilated to the point I couldn't identify them. Each clawed their way from the earth and made their way to where I stood. For the first time when I looked down, I could see myself. I wore a big t-shirt and shorts, something I usually wear to bed. The bodies crawled up my legs and pulled me to the moist earth. I couldn't move, not that I would know where to go, and as they dragged me, I heard their whispers. "Save us, dear God, please save us." They dragged me to a hole in the ground and shoved me in. I watched them bury me, feeling as dirt hit my unmoving eyes. I couldn't close them to shield myself from the earth that fell upon me, and slowly I felt the crushing weight that was being buried. I laid in the nothingness for some time, wondering what was to happen next. At this point, everything that had happened prior seemed like a blur. I didn't remember dead Adam, or the gyrating thongs, or giving birth to a zombified Mr. Chubbs. I only remembered one thing, and soon I was submerged in it. "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Adam, happy birthday to you." Joel leaned over, blowing out Adam's candles. Everyone gasped, but Adam kept smiling. He was young, missing a few teeth, and really didn't care. I felt strapped to my chair, unable to move as the two morphed in front of me. They aged rapidly, their skin wrinkling and flaking away before snapping back to teenage years. "Try it, it won't hurt. I do it all the time," Joel said, handing Adam a pill, similar to the one he tried to give me. A smiling Adam took it, unbeknownst to my watchful eyes. They morphed again, reaching death before snapping back to young adulthood. "I'll drive you, buddy. We can pick up something fun on the way there," Joel said, wrapping an arm around Adam's shoulders and guiding him out of the house. Of course he would drive. Adam couldn't keep a car without selling it off for pills. Don't trust Joel. I woke with a start, thinking I heard a gunshot. Up and off my bed, I stared out the window for 10 minutes, only seeing Slim and a few ladies of the night, as my mother calls them, out in front of Smith's. I was shook to my core, and with everything so vivid in my mind, I had to record the dreams. I feel like not everything in them was fictional, like part of this really happened in my life. I never did drugs with Adam, and not only because I didn't want to, but because Adam never asked. When I would talk to him about his addiction, there was such guilt in him. It poured out of him in the most abstract ways. After we'd argue, there would always be a gift in my room. After he and my parents would argue, he would try to stay clean for what short time he could, and he rarely did it if I was around. But I think that came down to pride, not just guilt. And Adam had saved me from drowning, but only after playing a vicious game of hide and seek with me. Star Bend has always been a creepy place to me, with its droopy trees and its closeness to such a deadly river. Never did I expect it to become a dumping ground, much less for it to become the place they dumped my brother. I hate this place. I started to hate it when Adam started using. I always blamed living here for his addiction, but when I looked in the mirror, I knew it wasn't true. There were plenty of clean people here, and what I'm sure we all have in common is, we don't have an enabler. Joel's always been pushy, pushing Adam to jump off a tree, resulting in him breaking his leg, pushing Adam to try beer, then weed, then pills, and God knows what else. Joel acted like Adam was his sidekick, and maybe he was. Maybe Adam felt safe with Joel. The note still hangs me up. Why would Adam write it, but continue to be friends with Joel? The future is bleak, and it's only just beginning in the first installment of Reign of the Maid God, a new dystopian sci-fi universe by indie author Joshua Hall. Through the writings and illustrations of supposed prophets, we learn of creatures in the New World with pits for stomachs, and events which push the strongest of humanity to their limits. Do not let your eyes deceive you in this world. There is no magic here, only science. Learn more about this new universe at joshhall.com.au. Geez, it's only 3:45 a.m. I don't think I can sleep after all that. I actually felt the pain. My stomach has the lingering feeling you get after being in pain for a long period of time. Like, the absence of pain gives a tingly sort of feeling. I think if anyone ever does find these recordings, they're going to think I'm crazy. I think I'm going to go back to Star Bend, see what I can find. Plus, I need to get Adam's gun. What if there are others like Adam? What if it's a serial killer? I don't know about a serial killer here in Olivehurst, but I do know that the police aren't doing everything they can, especially Detective Bill. I don't like him. DNA is so advanced nowadays. Can't they just swab his body and find some DNA? A hair, skin cells, a carpet fiber, anything? It feels like it should be so simple. Dead body, detective work, find the killer. But it's not. According to Chantelle, there were 2 people that dropped him. So 2 killers? Or 1 and an accomplice? Or a horde of other killers and they're just the cronies? I still can't think of what they used to torture Adam. The thought makes me sick that he suffered so long. Ripped to shreds. It's sick. And more people are going through it. I guarantee there are more bodies being eaten by maggots out there. Dads will fish, teenagers will fornicate, kids will play, all unbeknownst to the quiet bodies around them. Sometimes I wonder where Adam is. I've never been the type to believe in heaven or hell, but the idea of him sitting in a safe place, watching down on us, is comforting. Maybe he'll be reincarnated. I think he'd want to be reincarnated as a dog. A golden retriever to be specific. He'd get to eat all the food he wanted and sleep all day. Yeah, it's easy to get lost in the what-ifs, in the pleasant ideas that after death we get a second chance. I think the best part of the heaven idea is that the person can still hear you, that they are always with you, and you are able to communicate with them. You can think of them and say something to them and believe they heard you, but deep down in my own heart, I know no one is listening. If anyone was listening, Adam would have been able to get clean. He tried so many times, and I know damn well his death is somehow related to his addiction. Who else would murder him but a vicious drug gang? I'm just hurt, so hurt because I know Joel is involved somehow. If he's selling the same product as Ricardo, aren't they connected? Or am I dumb? Yesterday I wrote another letter to Adam. Whether he knows about it or not, I'd still like for it to exist, and I'd like to hear how it sounds. The note you wrote about Joel has been the most confusing part of all of this. Where does this mistrust come from? I've been working day and night on your case. There's not a minute that goes by that I'm not thinking about finding your killer. I found out about your girlfriend. She's just as distraught as I am. I've been conflicted lately, torn between being mad at your killers and you. Had you taken the rehab seriously, one of the countless times we tried, you could still be here. You could have gotten a nice job, moved out with Chantelle, and started to work for the community. We lowered you into your grave, Adam. You'll never be here again. I feel guilty for the statement about being angry, but it's the truth. Clean Adam would have had no use for drugs, or Joel, or the street life that he led. He could have gotten out. I fell asleep. This morning has been interesting to say the least. I forgot most of the dreams I had last night and had to listen to the recording to get a refresher. Wow is the only word that came to mind. Again, I got up, had my coffee, and watched the news, only to be enraged to see Detective Bill on the screen. Lies spewed from his filthy mouth as he told the plastic-like news anchor that crime had gone down in Olivehurst. 2 days ago, there was a homicide in one of the apartment buildings in my complex. Lovers quarrel, I had heard from a neighbor, and the day after that, there was a shooting at the supermart a few miles down the road. Just where my mom pulled a few strings and got me a job. Her old friend Jasmine works there. Jasmine and my mom got to talking one day about how I'm a loner and I need to get out more. Jasmine suggested I started working there. And who am I to resist when they already got me a vest with my name on it? Honestly, I'm not mad. My mom is looking out for my best interest. But Supermart? I think I'm more of a coffee time employee. Okay, in all honesty, I would have been happy to take the job had Adam not been murdered this week. Playing detective has made me feel like I have a purpose, and that maybe I'm finally doing Adam right. I start tomorrow, learning my section of the store and stocking shelves. The pay isn't bad for a job I can ride my bike to, And maybe now I won't go crazy pacing my room the times I don't know where to go. Not to mention, everyone I know goes to supermart, and it'd be great to do some surveillance incognito. With nothing better to do, I had decided to go to Star Bend. That was until I checked my phone. Chuck canceled lunch today, saying he had to work. Last I remember, he doesn't have a job. And oh yeah, by the way, Chantelle is pregnant. Believe me when I say I felt every emotion when I saw the text, and rather than texting back, I hopped on my bike and sped over to her apartment. She answered the door, this time fully dressed, and allowed me in. I've never been the kind of person to hold things back, so before she could even sit down, I asked, "Is it Adams?" She shrugged, a guilty look on her face. I don't know. I was almost mad until I remembered her profession. Well, how can we find out? She said the doctors could check, but not until further along in the pregnancy, and she assured me that she uses protection every time she's with a client. How far along are you? 3 months. Did Adam know? I was almost in tears, waiting for her answer like my life depended on it. No. Oh, the spear that was thrusted into my heart. Adam was a strange child. He'd often steal my baby dolls and rock them and feed them with the utmost care. My father wasn't one for it, but my mother saw it as a good sign that she'd get to care for grandchildren in the future. A baby would have changed everything for him. I sobbed, crying for a good 10 minutes before I could get myself to stop and talk to Chantelle. She explained that she had just found out last night, and I was the first and only person she told. I don't expect you to help, she said cautiously, but I still wanted you to know. I shook my head. No, I'll do what I can to help, I said. I'm finally an aunt. This new job was meant for Adam. This wonderful news was meant for Adam. This child was meant for Adam. Yet here I was, taking his place. I feel the utmost guilt. I know the job was originally lined up for Adam, and I know Chantelle would have never told me had Adam still been here. I didn't even know she existed until he died. What do they call it? Survivor's guilt? Only I wasn't in the same accident as Adam. I feel as if I should have been in his place. Chantelle told me she had some errands to run and ushered me out of her house. I rode my bike to Smith's, not wanting to go inside my apartment just yet, and outside I was met with Slim. He said, "Hey, little Abigail, isn't it?" I nodded, thinking of Adam's gun sitting in that tree hollow. Yeah, he licked his dry lips before continuing. "Ricardo." I must know that he said it like Ricardo, and I almost laughed. Anyway, he said, "Ricardo moved." I shrugged my shoulders, playing dumb. "Who?" I asked. "Ricardo, Adam's new dealer." Oh, now the old man has something to say. "Chantelle told me you looking for who killed Adam." I nodded, remembering the story of how the two met. "Only makes sense that it was Ricardo. Ain't no one else had a beef with that boy." I nodded, staying quiet. His eyes, wide as they already were, widened more. "Oh, but you didn't hear that from me." I shook my head. "No, sir," I said, and motioned that I zip my lips. "Anything else you know?" Slim scratched his arm and looked around before leaning in real close. The smell of rotten fish and tobacco suffocated me until his words made me forget. "Joel is working for Ricardo." Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next Friday for Adam's Murder, Episode 6, Dead Relatives. And a special thanks to Benny Contreras for giving Indicted Fiction its first 5-star review on Spotify. If you're enjoying the show, please be sure to leave a review on the platform you listen on. If you'd like to read the transcribed audio diary of Abigail Drummer, go to my website, authorilianapoe.com/blog. Each episode is posted on my blog under Indicted Fiction. Don't forget, Adam's Murder will be published as a paperback and ebook on October 7th, 2022, when the finale of Indicted Fiction Season 1 airs. Pre-order begins on August 19th, 2022, so be sure to subscribe to my website, authorilianapoe.com.